You pompous, negligent, iTunes gift card as a holiday bonus giving mother...
Yeah, I just can't think of anything else to describe it. So, and I just have to ask the simple question.
What the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, that just about summarizes it.
Yeah. All right, so what we left off, I think, at end of episode 3, I believe.
Yeah, only episode 3.
I think.
I think we jumped around a bit.
We did.
Well.
Okay, so. All right. So,
is Aspiring going to be able to make it today?
I do not know.
I'd be rather disappointed if he couldn't.
That is.
So, do we want to get started, or do we want to wait some more for the other guests?
I think I can just kind of go for it a little bit. Since let me check a few things. My schedule is kind of in flux. It'll kind of flex for. All right.
All right, I guess I'll just go ahead and give my overall thoughts on Act 1 of Season 2. What an absolutely botched and rushed performance over there. Like, genuinely, that was incredible. It was breakneck pace. I think everybody's already talked about the montages more than enough, but genuinely, I actually did get banned from Mahler's server for a bit for being pretty critical and pretty harsh on this show, believe it or not. And one of the things that I complained about was just the way that information is provided in Season 2 is they will just go ahead and gloss over it instead of meticulously setting it up. They'll just rush through with a montage or music video, and Arcane has never had the best soundtrack, okay? I mean, it's never had the best songs. It only has
Imagine Dragons is highly overrated.
Yeah, I mean, Imagine Dragons aside, there's genuinely just some not so great music in Arcane, but look, whatever was going on from before, there's just a massive downgrade with this season. Need I remind you of drooling for a squeaky?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Well, I guess we may as well just go ahead and get into Act 2, which I'm going to go ahead and be upfront about Act 2. When I initially watched it, I thought, okay, well, hopefully they'll clutch up and Act 2 will actually be good. And I seem to think that around about the end of episode 4, I thought that the show made a comeback. Like, I genuinely thought that Act 4 I genuinely thought that Act 2 was pretty good on initial watch of it, but what I ended up learning was that, no, I was just emotionally manipulated. And also, I was desperate for the show to be good, so...
Yeah, so with Paint the Town Blue, Declaration of Martial Law, Piltovan and Noxian Forest occupies on. Jinx has gone hiding with Isha, and which is really stupid because it's just weird that
Yeah, why?
Jinx doing the whole
She just disappeared. She just disappeared off with this little kid who we, the audience, barely even know, if we know this kid at all. Like, the kid doesn't say any bits of dialogue. She doesn't really do much in the first 3 episodes other than preventing Vi from killing Jinx, which fair, but that's about it. I mean, that action. Oh, let's just that action alone. Like, this kid was already so invested in Jinx that she willingly ran up to stand between her and her own sister and an enforcer, no less, with hex tech weaponry. If you can easily guess where I'm going next with this, my question would be, why, how, what happened in between her introduction in that point that made her latch on to Jinx so much?
Good question.
The answer is nothing, of course, because the showrunners didn't really give us much time with this character to get attached to her and to get to understand her mindset and why she would latch on to somebody like Powder or Jinx, rather.
Yeah.
So
this garnered several reactions from me that repeated themselves like 100 times throughout the course of the movie. Those reactions being, what is this? Why? How? Who did this? And what the fuck?
Okay. Admittedly, I really do miss... I understand why he got off the internet, but I really do miss Wolf.
I miss the guy, too.
Very funny dude. But that all aside, so episode... What more do I need to say about that? I don't need to say anything more about that. Let's get on to freaking Drooling for a Squeaky with Paint the Town Blue, which, holy crap, is... How many... Wait, I need to know. Did all of the first 5 episodes of this season start with a goddamned music video?
I think so, yes.
I mean, episode 1 didn't literally start with a music video, but it ended up... But, a few minutes later, or just a minute in, we're treated with a music video. I'm not sure if episode 2... No, wait, episode 2 had one, because that was setting up the whole Baron Civil War thing, and which just gets glossed over and forced into the background, even though that should have been an entire season's worth of plot right there. But never mind that. Episode 3... What was the music video? Episode 3 had Vi and Caitlyn gassing the Undercity. So, yeah. And now we're over here with Riots All Around You. I'm sorry, by the way. It's a very... Unfortunately, the rhyme is rather clean and concise, and it was also repeated enough times that it burrowed its way into my head, and I can't get it out. But what are we going to say about this? Yeah, I also completely forgot. Jace disappeared. In episode 3, he just disappears. Like, he just... So, I just remembered something stupid about the first 3 episodes. that was Jason and Victor's role in it, namely Victor's absence in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you remember the funny little reactor thing that they went into? That was because it was acting all weird. Do you remember how the freaking tree was just suddenly wilting? Like the Firelight's tree was suddenly wilting and had like little purple goop on it, and they concluded that, yes, this must be the result of you using the Arcane and using Hex Tech. When was this? I guess we're getting, I guess we're getting introduced to this right now. But okay, yeah, sure. And it turns out that there was just a structure. Yeah, apparently this was just always a thing, and Jace apparently accounted for it, and he had an underground structure where I don't even know what it does. I think that was just like where all the what's that structure again? I'm drawing a blank on it.
There's some kind of power supply, from what I remember, that would act as an exhaust vent for excess amounts of power. Fabulous. I think this intro is appropriate for Mr. Aspiring.
Somebody needs to track down a fairy and have that fairy wave a magic wand and turn this movie into an actual person so that I can kick its fucking ass.
Yep.
I watched the first episode of Wheel of Prime Season 3.
It's bad.
I am sorry for your loss.
You are lucky, and I don't think Trip will be able to torture you with it to him because she still can't process it.
Interesting you should mention that, because she said that if we hang out tonight, we're going to be watching it.
I am surprised. I honestly thought you might have to, take time.
Yeah. I may, maybe sometime tomorrow, I'll do like a live commentary or something before, maybe like a couple episodes.
Fuck it, I don't give a shit. She's gonna show you the whole thing so you get to see it. So I'll just spoil a few things. Matt just has the fucking horn. He's just fucking waving it around. It's like he's literally bragging at a fucking bar, being like, "I am the horn blower." And I'm like, nobody in this goddamn bar is gonna be like, "Wait, you are? That's the horn right there you're holding and you're putting down at a fucking table? Hey, let me just take that." Most powerful weapon ever.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. He's just waving it around. He's having a drawing of himself made with him having the fucking horn on his goddamn hand in the goddamn bar. And there's like a person behind him giving him the goddamn side eye who I thought was gonna steal it because of how fucking he was just waving it everywhere.
Oh my gosh, that's so freaking stupid.
Yeah, Avi is gay. She and Elaine are fucking.
So, okay. Not too surprised about that, considering Rick Judkins' comments.
Well,
they're doing the Stone of Tear. They're doing Kalendor.
Well, let me ask you something, Aspiring. How do you know that she's gay? Was there a needlessly inserted sex scene where they effed inside the Oh. Wait. Did they F inside of the same exact jail cell where her sister threatened to kill herself in? Because if so, because if not, then I have no way of knowing that she is gay.
Oh man.
Let me think. What else happened there that I can? You'll get to be able to react to everything else. But yeah, they're doing Stone of Tear. They're doing Kalendor. They're gonna be doing it. What else? I did not realize there was an actual midget. I know you guys called her a midget, but I don't think I actually realized. Oh, she's an actual midget. I thought she was just a really short person, and that's why you're making fun. I didn't realize she was a midget.
Yeah, no, it's a dwarf. It's an actual little person slash
I
dwarf.
I don't know how to really respond to that because it's like, why? Just why? And why is she like the main person? She looks like a fucking mini Leandrin.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
anyway,
let me think. I want to spoil at least one more thing, but let me think because I need to save some of this for Trip, so she can see your pain. They're doing your mom. I mean, I'll just say this: there is so much they take from like the beginning of book 4. So much. It is a fucking hosh posh of shit. DM, this is probably has like the most stuff, which is like, oh yeah, they took this from the books, but they fucked it up immensely, so badly.
For
Dear God.
pity's sake.
How about this? I'm gonna yell this and let you realize what I'm referring to tonight when you watch it. Bow down to me.
Oh no. So when are you guys doing season 3? That's a good question.
I'm not sure if the episode's actually released. We saw it was like an early viewing. I believe it's supposed to be released next week. You could technically do it tomorrow, but you would need to have Trip, dare to stream it because she has the recording. And I honestly don't think she is going to submit herself to 3 times if she does another one tonight.
Okay.
you remember what that nuclear reactor-looking thing was from episode 3 of Arcane?
Nuclear reactor-looking thing? You mean this thing in the? I mean the thing that they use to send ships away?
Yeah, the thing that that teleports Jace and everybody else into another dimension.
Yeah. What about it?
Do you even remember what that thing is?
It's
Like,
supposed
what
to be
its function is?
It's like the power source or whatever for the stupid tower that sends airships to other places.
Oh,
Was this an actual question?
Yes, this was an actual question.
Oh, yeah, it's a Hextech tower, which didn't exist in the previous season.
Yeah, it was the power. Yeah, apparently it was the power source. I mean, I suppose you could say they hinted at it when Victor started having his coughing fit and he's bleeding through his nose and he looks down over the railing and it just goes and falls into like the seemingly endless abyss. But I don't think anybody would have ever guessed that at the bottom of that abyss would be the power source for all of this. And I especially don't think anybody would have guessed that the reason why it exists and it's down over there is to protect against, I don't know, some sort of form of radiation or whatever the hell is going on.
I don't know either. It's just so freaking.
And even dumber is that somehow Jace, the thing was built with a locking mechanism that required a tool that Jace wouldn't invent until years after the gates were built. But, I mean, come on.
Who cares at this point?
So question, Codex, are you offering yourself tomorrow for that episode? If so, then done. You can maybe ask Trip if she wants to do it that way.
Yeah, we can see. Freaking Annie.
Tell Trip like Codex is offering himself for Sunday if she wants to do it then instead of tonight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
she
Mr.
might.
Fanatic, I think we have to use an opening, so let's probably do this.
This is the worst writer in America.
I did have to witness the worst writer in America, so.
Hello.
Hi.
Do I sound okay?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Sweet. I was just listening about the tower thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they knew. So they get sucked into the hex core. I don't think they knew it was down there.
No, they definitely knew it was down over
They
there.
have
Otherwise
to know.
wouldn't
They
have.
built the
Yeah.
damn thing.
The wild
No. So this thing that they find isn't supposed to be there. This is a corruption
Well, I
that they
think they
discover.
Well, this thing I think is just part of a whole nother realm.
Yeah,
I think
it's called the anomaly. That's what they called it in all the meta stuff. But you didn't really know that it's called the anomaly until several episodes later, where Heimerdinger is discussing it with Echo, and they're basically trying to recreate this over here. Because apparently this thing just sends them to another dimension. And apparently this thing was just down there, and it was as you said, Fanatic, just their power supply getting warped.
It's from repeated use.
I actually want to touch on this for a sec, because in the first season, there is basically no foreshadowing or hinting that the power source for the hex core would be corrupted. We see the organic kind of thing with Victor's hex core, where it starts looking more organic and strange. But that's not necessarily, we assume, a corruption. We just assume it's evolving into something more alive.
Because
organic matter and converting it. We do not assume this is like an issue of it being corrupted. We assume it's an issue of the nature of the magic. And I don't particularly like this because hex tech and how it works was supposed to have it's supposed to be like, it's neutral in that it is a technology that can be used for bad things and has negative consequences that they can't foresee because they're going a bit too fast and don't understand it. This makes it look like it's a plainly evil thing you cannot use at all.
Yeah. Yep. Point blank. This thing, because this thing over here that we're looking at, this is from usage, not from unethical experimentation like what Victor was doing. Because the reason why his hex core ended up getting corrupted was because he started tinkering around and, as Aspiring explained, basically infusing organic matter and testing it on organic matter, like the plant.
So I do want to clarify that why this. So the way hex tech works is basically like an equation, and in the beginning, in the first season, Jace is trying to figure out the runes, and so what he's doing is effectively constructing a equation using these runes. But he doesn't know what the runes mean, and neither does Victor. So they're playing with a force that they don't quite understand, which is why this thing exists, because they don't know that as a result of these, as the result of the use of the hextech, that it's creating this thing, because they don't understand the entity that they're playing with. Hang on. It's been hinted, and especially early on, that hextech, or rather the Arcane, isn't just a force. It's a living sort of entity, and you basically interact with it through the runes. So that's kind of laying the groundwork for this thing, which is that, and the thing with what's it called? The thing with Victor being that, like, when he feeds it his blood, it basically becomes in tune with him, and which is why he ends up evolving in that way, because him and the hex core basically become sort of the same thing. He starts to merge with the hex core once he starts to become augmented by it, which implies that it's evolving. It's evolving and adapting, and it's doing. And so when they keep doing this thing with the hex core, well, not the hex core, the hex gates, because the hex gates are a mechanism by travel. They don't understand that because it's doing this thing where it's traveling from one location to the other. This hex core is that side effect where they didn't realize that it's not just one plane that it can traverse, it can do multiple.
That's a very good explanation. I only have one
Not
question
very
for you.
clear.
Mhm.
Where is this explained in the show?
Well, it doesn't have to be explained. This is all like remember that this thing exists at the bottom of the hex gate, and you know what the hex gate does.
No, Fanatic. I mean, your
Mhm.
explanation, everything that you just provided. Where is this laid out in the show?
So season 1 is where a lot of this is kind of grounded down, where Jace is explaining the runes. I can't give you an exact point in the show, but Jace talks about these runes. I think
That was
with
episode
Victor when they're
2
testing
of
Yeah.
season 2.
Yeah, when they're
Or it
testing
was-
with the runes itself, and then how to get the runes to work.
Yeah,
It's only as
they were discussing the wild runes, and that was pretty
Yeah.
much the only time we ever see it brought up.
Mhm.
The only other time we ever hear mention of runes is as Aspiring said, it was being explained like an equation, like
Mhm.
something mathematical. But also, Victor does explain that the mages just sort of felt it going through them rather than simply piecing it together. So, I think I might have just answered my own question over there.
It's not an exact science. These guys don't know what they're dealing with.
Hmm.
Yeah, but my issue is this, as a consequence, is not actually foreshadowed as something that corrupts and does parallel dimensions.
Yeah,
Because like we see in the starting of the season 2, this thing is having effects on the environment after several years, which, first off, the fact that it goes several years without having noticeable signs, and then suddenly they manage to notice some weird shimmering kind of effect from it, is a bit like, okay, this didn't exist and now it does. And again, there's nothing that shows this in the first season. You just assume that the organicness is it becoming alive, like you said, but not that it's having a corruption or parallel effect on anything. It's just more, this is a magical thing that they don't completely understand, and is starting to create its own kind of life force, and it's connecting to Victor. That doesn't make you think of the parallel timelines and stuff. That shit comes out of nowhere.
yes.
Yeah, but that's also like I don't know how exactly you would be able to foreshadow that beyond the little scene that Jace describes with when he gets given the rune by the unknown mage. That's the only time that's like you actually learn about the rune.
He's not
and then
unknown.
Well, I know, but I'm talking about like at the time unknown, where he understands that like the mage uses the runes to travel, and he doesn't fully understand how they work.
For the corruption, I would say just have it in the first season. The fact that it only comes in season 2 is, again, I don't know. Also, show that core. The fact that they don't show that underside until it suddenly becomes relevant is not a great idea. A lot of the stuff that ends up becoming the new nature of the Arcane is brought up only in season 2 and seemingly almost separate from what we see in season 1. Because in season 1, it's having it's much more clear on how it kind of can be used with a little bit of mystery with what Victor is doing. This goes much further than you would be afforded to expect, and without enough of the kind of prep work you would need to have an audience be okay with these as possibilities. Because they don't show them experimenting and seeing these kinds of stuff. Like currently, they've only managed to find like the power source aspect and the spatial aspect. They don't complete. You could show them finding the other aspects you can use hex tech for, which is like, time, that kind of stuff.
I guess so at least in terms of the aspects of them testing, what they're testing is for it to be a power source, and you wouldn't. They're of course not going to the levels, because the amount of power it would need to be able to send them across dimensions kind of is hinted at by how big the thing is. Because they've been using the hex gate so often, the anomaly's been growing and growing and growing. Their experiments that they do in season 1 are low level because they're just trying to make it power up. They're trying to make a power source effectively, and an unlimited power source is what they're aiming for, that they can use to then build more technology on top of. So their experiments are low level. they would not be able to achieve parallel dimension travel with what they're trying to do. Not that they knew that it would be even possible.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair criticism though that in season 2 that they could have spent more time on the hex core. That's a lot of things in season 2 that you can just say is like it would have been nice for them to spend a lot more time on this.
Yeah, so the Arcane is integral to how the plot of the show works, but it feels like it's at the backseat almost, and how it's not really explored by many of the characters in that season. It is plot integral, but it's not fully explained in a way that would help the audience kind of understand it. And that is not okay.
I would say that precludes the characters themselves understanding it.
There are characters who would try to understand it. That's the thing. And Jace doesn't really try to understand the Arcane in this season. He just gets swept into this other timeline, tries to survive, and then sees his fate of the world, and then just kind of goes with the flow. Like, he gets this hammer that kind of looks like a corrupted Hextech hammer. And he doesn't
looks
really...
like a freaking Zinchian weapon from Warhammer 40,000. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, and he doesn't really seem to question how the fuck that thing works or anything. A lot of it, they don't really question it.
Just take your Chaos Corrupted Hammer and go.
I would say that by the time... I'm trying to remember how many episodes we get with Jace. I think Jace is mainly presented when he's like... when he comes out of the Hex Core. I think that's the most time we spend with him. I think by that point, he doesn't really care.
Which is end of episode 5, by the way. That's when we see him again.
Yeah, there's a lot of time where
and just him,
not appearing in the film.
Just him. The show didn't even bother to account for Heimerdinger and Echo, who were also thrown in.
And that whole episode with Heimerdinger and Echo is kind of weird.
Okay, comment.
Episode 7?
Yeah, the fact that they just make it to like a world without Hextech is the only good one. Again, it takes what was kind of again, Hextech seemed to be the kind of thing of it's neutral, it can do good or do bad, and in this one, the season definitely takes a position, no, Hextech is just bad. There is no nuance to that anymore.
Yep.
I disagree with that. I really do disagree with that. Because
How?
The event that they say, the event or one of the diverging points for that world is that the hex crystal explosion in Jace's lab that was initially caused by Jinx. They survive that, but in that universe, Vi doesn't, and Jace gets. I think Jace's experiments basically get killed. Like his entire operation with the Hextech gets completely shut down. Hextech ceases to exist at that point because it's been outlawed, or any of his experiments basically become outlawed because it's too dangerous.
Yeah,
as a result of Vi dying. Hang on. The rest of the reason why it's more of like a perfect world is because Silco and Vanda resolve their differences, and this primarily happens because Silco or Vanda sends Silco a letter basically trying to reconcile with him, and Silco in the original universe never finds it, and thus that rift still exists. But in the parallel universe, that rift becomes repaired when Silco finds the letter, and they reconcile, and then they end up building a more productive relationship with Piltover.
Which, by the way, the contents of that letter does not impress. And especially when you consider the context of which all that violence happened, and what it represents for both of them. Like, that fight was an extremely transformative moment for Silco, and to even imply that this stupid little letter would somehow completely undo all of that is kind of insultingly stupid.
Well, we're not told how much. Like, one of the things was the letter, but we're also not told how much more that there could be on top of that. The letter was just one of the things that was
I
changed,
understand
and
this.
that's. But we don't have the context of this is the problem with this season because it's one episode and not an entire arc. We don't fully get the context of what happens between Vanda and Silco that repairs their relationship. All we have is the letter, and then the letter paves that way to their relationship being repaired.
Precisely. This is it, exactly. I really couldn't have said it better myself, Fanatic. There's all the stuff in here that should have been a lot longer. That should have had way more. We should have had way more to chew on. But instead, they wanted to hurry up to a freaking Full Metal Alchemist style or Neon Genesis Evangelion style ending. It was. I'm sorry. Like I've already seen Ava, both the rebuilds and the regular version, and I cannot just unsee the parallels. I can't unsee the levels of BS that was present in both Ava and the ending of this.
Yeah.
It is bafflingly stupid the way that they end this, but we will get there.
And to go back, again, we only see timelines where either the Arcane exists, in which case everything has gone to shit, or the one dimension where Arcane doesn't, and then it's seen as, and then that dimension for some reason is just good. That is all we're shown. And Arcane is basically the main villain of this season.
The magic, yeah.
Well, I would say that their biggest issues are with it's Jace. Okay, so a lot of the shit happens because of Jace. Jace fucks up a lot of the things that get fucked up are because of Jace's actions. The Hextech being one is that he's playing with a force he doesn't understand, and then that's what then creates these sort of like Ambessa would not be in Piltover trying to get weapons from them if she wasn't aware of Hextech. Or that if they didn't have anything beyond like normal arms, like she doesn't care. She's not going to care about Piltover beyond the potential of like super weapons that they have through Hextech.
Well, yes. Here's the thing, though, Fanatic. I understand that what the show is saying. However, considering that what the show is saying is utterly retarded, I refuse to acknowledge what it is saying.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely abhor the notion that Jace, with all his optimism, hopes, and dreams, building a technology that takes this hyper-destructive power and makes it usable for the common person, is evil.
So
I hate that.
I would counter with a real world example and I would say that Jace's story is analogous to Oppenheimer.
No. That is no. Oppenheimer was explicitly tasked with creating a weapon. He was creating a weapon. He was building a weapon. He was using his theories and his knowledge to help the Americans build the nuclear bomb.
A weapon
whether or not he knew
would not
that
he again. Whether or not that was the nuclear
fanatic.
Yes.
Look. Jace was not unknowingly and unwillingly creating a weapon. Oppenheimer was. Jace was creating a power source to be used for the common person. And what ended up happening is that later on, this show tries to convince us that by creating this power source, he also incidentally created the mechanism by which to end the world.
That's interesting because the first time we see his X crystals, it blows up an apartment.
Yes, but we also then see him
because
make
of an
a sample
accident,
version.
and
Yes, but remember these are like in their raw form. These crystals could level an apartment building. The powers he's working with, like I understand that he's optimistic. This is what he wants to achieve, but what he's playing with, the presentation he gives to Heimerdinger with Victor has a laser that he can use. Victor hits the Poro, the little creature that Heimerdinger's pet. He hits it with that laser. So Jace shows off the fists, which can break through rock. Imagine what it could do to a person. He's presenting these things as tools, but these can be very easily, as Vi shows, can be weapons.
Everything can be turned into a fucking weapon.
Especially tools.
So many companies throughout history have had some time where they have a little side tangent where they just make weapons for a military. Seriously, it is so crazy how many have done this.
Your kitchen knives are weapons, by the way.
Yeah, but you also have to remember that Jace was explicitly against Hextech being used as a weapon. This was in season 1. I actually checked the.
Yes, you are correct.
The thing. He did mention that they would not be used as weapons, but But again, it's not something he can actually prevent. If the council forces him to make weapons, somebody will have to make weapons using Hextech if the council enforces it.
The only two people who seem to be able to understand and make Hextech are him and Victor. So, for a time, yes, they can't stop them. They currently are the monopoly on this.
There's nothing stopping the council from strong. I mean, the council was strong. Would be open to strong arming them into it. And Bessa is open to strong arming Jace into doing it. Jace is not beyond. He made a weapon for himself.
Yes, this is something of his arc where he ends up making a weapon out of Hextech, something he said he wouldn't do, and he very much regrets that.
Yeah. So I would say, like, I understand that it's not exactly 1-to-1 comparison, but the thing that they're trying to go for is that all of his optimism, all of the things that he wants to achieve with Hextech, he is naive to the idea that Hextech could do bad things, or that he's blindsided by this idea that as long as he focuses on doing good, there could be no bad outcome, which isn't true.
I agree.
He causes a lot of the bad in this show.
Yes, I agree that he gets some consequences to happen due to his naivete. However, a point against something you brought up, where you say, like, the pure form of Arcane is dangerous because it blew up. Literally every form of energy is dangerous in some way, including just fire. Just having a candle in your home is technically dangerous because of the fact it can make it burn down. All energy is dangerous, including electricity. The fact is we know how to make it safe, which is what he was in the process of doing. In that case, the Arcane is not actually different from any other source of energy.
So the hex crystals that he was using, I mean, they're like the size of a marble.
Yeah.
And if a little marble thing can level an apartment building, I think that's pretty dangerous. And he's got like a whole box of them.
A simple match could light an entire building on fire.
Yeah, and again,
how long would that take? You can put out a fire.
Depending on the composition of the building, quickly.
Electricity can kill a person.
It
can just completely kill a person.
But like you're not understanding. It's an explosive. It is an extremely volatile explosive in a very compact form.
If you drop it on the ground, it shatters. Yes.
It's dangerous. Yeah, yes. You could destroy a building by just accidentally dropping it. That's
And what's-
extremely dangerous.
You can burn a building down by dropping a torch.
By dropping
If it's covered
a
in
match.
gasoline. Well,
No, there's flammable buildings used to be quite flammable. You're thinking about it modern day. If we drop a torch in a building now, yes, it's gonna probably take a while. It wasn't when fire was the prime source of energy and heat. Back then, fire could kill and burn things down. In this case, Arcane can destroy an apartment room. It doesn't destroy the building, just the room.
okay. I
And
thought
also-
it was destroying part because I remember the building itself getting a lot of damage.
It gets cracked, but mostly the damage is to the room. The rest of the building
Yeah.
is still up.
Yeah, but I would say that the destruction that the hex crystals are capable of are well and above anything else that they have to deal with. I understand that other things are dangerous. You can set a room on fire. I understand that, but the crystals are they are the level of destruction they're capable of is above and beyond what the others,
I
and
agree
at the
with
speed it can do it
An
is
I agree that
pretty
explosion
astounding
does
as well.
not spread to other buildings.
that. I do agree that the hex tech is like a very compact and dangerous form of energy, but I think it has equivalencies and comparisons to other forms of energy in that regard. And the fact is, this is most kind of to show a dangerous side. I think the fact that it is more potent is part of what would get them screwed up, and so it has a parallel with other forms of energy in that regard. It's not special or unique in that way. It's just far more than they can handle. Because clearly, this is the most advanced form of power they have. This fucking lifts their entire city into prosperity, except for the other city.
Yeah. Until
Once again-
it becomes concentrated into the orb. I don't remember what they call it. The marbles, the actual marbles that they make. Before then,
Gems?
they're extremely volatile. Yeah, the gem is it hex gems? I don't remember what they call.
Yeah,
They might-
they were
They might
called
be called
gems.
gems, yeah. It's like,
Okay,
yeah.
so the hex crystals and then they become gems.
Yep.
Yes.
And when they were, of course, when they were refined into a gem, they became safe. I mean, Jace was able to smash it with a friggin' hammer, and absolutely nothing happened.
Which, by the way, let's bring back to this because this is something we haven't commented on. The main kind of story of the show is mostly between Zod and Piltover and the disparity between them and their conflict. That's kind of the whole theme of the show. It's what gets all of our characters into conflict. That is completely fucking dropped in this season.
Yep.
Hextech and the conflict between, honestly, Zon and Piltover is the main thing, and Hextech is more of like a kind of a trigger for that conflict to get more escalated.
A catalyst.
Yeah. So the main thing is Piltover and Zon, with Hextech just being a very important key in how that conflict goes, because Hextech rises Piltover to prosperity, but not Zon. It increases that disparity between these two. And Jace was actually in the process of possibly bridging that gap, because currently the Hextech is only able to be used for kind of the elite. It's used mainly just for trade, but he's in that process of making it safe enough where it could have started benefiting the Undercity. One of his things, the gauntlets, was meant specifically to help Undercity people with the mining. So he was kind of showing, like, again, a lot of themes of the show end up having to deal with this kind of stuff. He was in the process of being able to create a better peaceful world. Would that have happened? I'm not sure. Again, the Arcane is very similar to kind of any advancement in technology and could easily have end up fucking Zon even more if people used it in a certain way. But he was getting there. There was that.
And the show's trying to say to us that him making these advancements was basically going to destroy the world.
Yeah, it removes that nuance. There's always that
Yes.
potential that what he's doing would screw him and others up. But it kind of, by making it so it's like the key to an apocalypse, takes that away.
Yes, and this is what really irks me about this show, is that this guy whose intentions were very much good. Like, Road to Hell was paved with good intentions, but the mechanisms by which his good intentions would result in a literal apocalypse was not properly set up. It was sort of just pulled from thin air and all introduced in a single season, all for the purpose of just sort of undoing everything that was built up in season 1 with him.
So can I? I'm not gonna defend the season, but this is my personal thought of what happened, or what the plan was. So season 2, or in my mind, it seems like what they had planned was a season 3, and what happened was that the studio were basically told to wrap up Arcane so that they can be moved on to other projects. So they basically had the job to condense season 2 and season 3 into season 2, which is what we got. If I had to guess what would have been in a 3-season show of Arcane, it was that season 2 was transitioning from the dynamic between being from Zorn versus Piltover. Season 2 was supposed to transition from that to Piltover versus Noxus and Victor, and then the final season was supposed to be them Piltover dealing with Ambessa and Noxus, and also the existential threat brought by Victor.
That would have been pretty good, yes. It would have been very nice to have seen 3 seasons, but I'm not sure if it was due to the studio being pressured into wrapping it up very quickly or anything. I think this may have always been the plan, but
because it's kind of just dropped. It's not even rushed. Like, that's the issue. Zon is dropped. There's no actual conclusion to it. They give Silva a seat in the council, but that's just nothing at all.
Yeah, and there's also they never resolved the Chem Baron's plot line. They never resolved the issue of who killed Silco. They just sort of forgot about that. And throughout the entirety of the rest of the season, the only time you ever see him being mentioned is when his corpse is being trudged up into an alternate timeline or a flashback of some kind for the sake of member berries or fan service.
I know that just is it the director? Somebody basically at the studio was saying that it wasn't rushed. This was the plan all along. But with how season 1 was paced, I don't believe that's true. Because again, it seems like the writers have an idea of pacing. If they can do season 1 like that, then I can't really see them putting season 2 out like they did. This is just my, I guess, hope and optimism, my copium, if you will, that they hoped that there was going to be a season 3, but then that never happened.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but a lot of the writers who worked on season 1 left.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
that was my understanding that the writing staff lost a few of the people that made a lot of the season good, and were kind of telling a lot of the other writers, no, we're not going to just immediately have Caitlin and Bang.
Yep.
There's a lot more fan service in season 2.
And we even get an explicit statement from one of the writers for season 2 that the writer's room got downsized. And, well, yeah, we can see the results of that quite clearly now. Tragic as it is. But I guess we can go and move on to the next subject. What do we all think of Vander's resurrection?
I knew it was going to happen because I kept hearing about it. I really didn't want it to happen, though.
Yep. Here's the thing. in isolation, if you were to go up and tell me, hey, we're going to go and hey, they're going to resurrect Vander in the next season, my brain would instantly think, no, they're not. That would be a stupid idea. Why would you do that? His death had so much impact and meaning. Why would you undo that?
Yeah,
He's going to be brought back as a giant werewolf man.
I don't think he was dead. I don't because I remember Singe saying that he was still alive.
I don't think he was alive. I think that he was very much gone.
I don't think I remember Singe ever saying that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That would have helped.
Hang on, let me find it.
But as far as an explicit mention, no, I don't recall any mention. At least in season 1, anyway. Yeah, this is... Oh, wait. It's even titled his death scene. It seems very explicit. What the show is... What's being shown to us over here is quite explicit. He is gone.
Admittedly, this is not the official Arcane thing. This is something that somebody else made.
I can look up the show. Hold on. I've got Netflix here.
Yeah.
In either case, though, I doubt that. For a start, I'm going to say preface. I doubt that I missed them mentioning that, but well, yeah. Again, based off of what we see in the show, I would have never thought that. Yeah, he's still alive, and we're going to bring it back for season 2, because again, narrative. That saps away all the drama from this scene, from that scene over there, from this scene over here. Like, this is their father figure that they just watched die, and this is basically the inciting incident. This is what causes everything else that happens to happen, and just having it so that he just comes back from this is just cheap. It removes all sense of stakes from the narrative. It's like, oh well, this guy can die and come back. So why not anybody else?
So while they were trying to save Vander in that episode, the breakdown between Jinx and Vi, I think is Vi, or rather Vi's basically snapping at Powder because she's sick of Powder ruining things. Powder repeatedly fucking up, and then she's tired. She's completely broken by this point because now Vander is gone.
Yeah, that's basically what I was saying. Like, his death in this moment was the final straw. It was what caused everything else that happened to happen.
What? Well,
like,
she told Jinx to stay. She told Jinx to stay. Jinx came anyway. She brought the Hex Crystals, and the Hex Crystals killed everybody. I want to see, did Vander willingly take Shimmer?
He did. But he still maintained his sense of humanity while he was, shimmered up, which made him the GOAT. And it really made this whole sequence was really, really good. I'm not all there right now, in case anybody could tell. I barely got any sleep last night for some reason, but
I can relate.
Yeah. And it's also been a very long time, and I've been trying not to think about this very much, but the more I do, the worse things get. At least for season 2.
Yeah, I feel relatively similarly, unfortunately.
Are we
I'm
all
pretty sure
tired?
Silka would know definitively if Vanda died.
You would have what?
Singed is a sort of a free agent. He doesn't work exactly for Silco. Silco uses him. Just like again, like Singed kind of does things on his own because he has his own ends to meet.
Should we talk about what direction they took him?
He's the only one who won. He made it out of the show like a goddamned bandit.
Oh, Singe.
I still don't
Yes.
completely feel like that.
Oh yeah, Singe is a worm.
I think that Singe is just kind of like
He's there.
You're neutral. Like he's just a neutral.
Not just that, his goal was something which I was like, what the fuck with the curing of debt? It's just, even for this show with the magic and everything, that kind of just made me go, what?
Yes,
Curing
that
debt
was
is a little much.
So
It was
what
brought
do
up
you
randomly, but yeah.
Yeah,
what do you think his goal is? Sorry.
His goal is to basically revive the dead.
specifically
Okay,
his daughter.
Yeah, so he's trying to revive Oriana. This is another character in the game.
Which
You know,
I don't particularly like as a goal for this show, just because one, it's even I don't like people being revived from the dead in shows because it can really fuck with stakes.
yep.
You need to leave certain characters dead because it then starts to get really tiring when they don't stay dead.
Although I think the idea of resurrection, at least that they've shown in the show, is that it can be extremely unstable. Like Sin's experiments for all he did with Vanda to bring him back to life made him into a monster in the end.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was really his plan with Vanda, but it's as a result of like, okay, well, he's unstable, but I can use him. Shimmer, it doesn't do what I want to do, but I can. But Silco, I mean, he likes the idea of Shimmer, so I can give that to him, and so Singe keep experimenting for his own goal, but while also kind of interacting with these people because they'll give him what he needs in order to keep going.
Shimmer is highly useful, so there's every reason for him to keep wanting to use Shimmer, Silco. But because it helps people survive things. But again, it was kind of like we're all expecting what the hell is his goal, Singe, and I don't know.
He just wants to resurrect his little girl.
Which I don't know. It just feels a bit.
I mean,
out of left field.
It's shown that he's basically a sociopath. He's willing to cause any sort of damage to get what he wants.
No,
Yeah.
we don't have an issue with his characterization. His characterization is fine. It's just that our hang up is the fact that he's trying to undo death, which may as well
to a certain extent.
Yeah, which he may as well just say, "I'm trying to undo consequences."
And technically, there are certain costs, like Vander needs Deus Ex Victor in order to try and fix him, and then that gets subsequently undone.
Which was kind of just weird and pointless. It was just kind of to set up, I guess, Victor's army.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they skipped over, which was Ambessa, I think, wrecking. She wrecked the Undercity, which is where Victor sets up his little commune.
Oh, yeah, we were getting to that, I think.
That was with Jinx Jesus moment.
That was with Isha and the kid doing the thing and sacrificing herself and whatever.
Yeah, that part was dumb.
What her sacrificing herself? Why was that dumb?
Well, it's just emotionally manipulative BS.
There's so much for a character
Explain.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? We spend time with little kid. We barely even know this character at all. The character doesn't even speak, for that matter. But I mean, that's not inherently a problem. But then this kid runs out and does the reckless thing. We get a little montage of scenes that never happened in the show. Of look how much Powder or Jinx really likes this kid. She really likes the kid, the kid, and we're playing really sad music to really highlight, the tragedy. This kid's is going to go out and be a hero and sacrifice her life for Jinx and all that, which of all the people to sacrifice your life for, interesting choice, but I digress.
I find this very interesting because I think you've missed the core thing that they were trying to do with Aisha. Which were Aisha. I didn't miss the point. I understand that they were trying to make like a mirror between between little Isha and Powder as a kid, but also Powder is now stepping into the role of the big sister, kind of like how Vi was. I understand all of that. All of that was very, very apparent and was extremely on the nose. And I will also say this adds to the feeling of emotional manipulation that irritates me right now. Not at the moment. At the moment, I was okay with it, but in the present moment, no.
I was not okay with it because I could tell they were trying to use her to make Jinx a protagonist, and redeem her. But I was like, no, she hasn't done anything nor wants that.
I want to concentrate on Aisha more than Jinx.
Let's let Fanatic express his points, as you might have jumped to a conclusion. So let's kind of back things up a bit.
Okay, so we see Aisha through the montage. Through at the end of season 1, not the end of season 1. Sorry, in season 2, we see the montage with Jinx and Aisha basically bonding, and then they have that big sister, little sister relationship that Jinx and Vi and Powder had. The parallel between them is that Powder wanted to be like Vi. She wanted to do things like Vi, and Vi wanted the same for Powder. The problem is Vi doesn't really understand Powder, and she wants Powder to do things that Powder can't do because Powder doesn't fit that mold. But Powder wants to be able to do these things, and so she keeps trying. But her attempts fail, which is what creates that rift. With Jinx and Aisha, this is the same thing, except the difference here is that Vi could see it, and which is why she blows up on Powder. Jinx does not see what she's doing to Aisha. Aisha idolizes Jinx. She wants to be Jinx. She's a blank slate. She can't even speak, but you can see her modeling herself after Jinx. The problem here is that Jinx doesn't want to be Jinx, which is its own issue. Jinx doesn't want to be Jinx. But Aisha wants Jinx to be the Jinx that she has in her mind. And that is what causes Aisha to basically sacrifice herself, because that is what Jinx, the Jinx she believes in, would have done.
Yes. I think we all understand that point quite succinctly. I mean, she even dyes her hair the same color to really drive home the point.
Yeah,
this is the thing. This is the thing about the show. It's not subtle at all. We can see a lot of the stuff coming from a mile away.
Yeah, well, like yeah, I mean that's a lot of the thing. With Raptor's point there, why does a 4-year-old want to be a terrorist? I mean, you could ask that of like, well, why do, like, I guess there's a whole thing of like 12-year-olds and who like kind of they love the guys who play Call of Duty basically, and they're all like about that sort of power fantasy sort of thing. Children can be impressed by all sorts of things, and they may not fully understand. Like, you may not fully conceptualize the idea that Jinx is extremely volatile, and she doesn't see that Jinx is a terror. She just sees Jinx as like someone that's cool, that does cool things.
I think Raptor also misses the point that the show's trying to make Jinx out to be a hero.
Yeah, that's a whole really stupid thing.
Well, I'm glad we can all agree on that point.
Oh yeah, like I do want to clarify. Like, I don't like this season. I know it feels like I'm kind of defending a lot of it, but I feel like a lot of the things that they tried to do in the season, they didn't have enough of a season to work with in order to pull it off.
I think they added too much shit though.
Yep.
You could have done better if you
Well-
didn't add a lot of the new places you wanted to go for some fucking reason.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yes,
but yeah,
like
those are the same.
Mel.
Like,
Mel's entire subplot. Notice that we never even mention it once.
oh,
And that's
shall
because-
we talk about the Black Rose?
No,
Yes.
it's
Why are
complete-
they? No. I want to talk about this. Why the fuck are they so goddamn OP? Holy shit! They can just randomly possess people from whatever the fuck they are, killing them and controlling them before then. What the fuck?
The Black Rose's inclusion is so stupid in of itself. They don't really do anything in the entire season other than like be like this sort of specter hanging over Ambassa, and as a means for Mel to learn her powers for some random reason.
And the magic is completely separate to like why they're just two separate forms of magic in a world where it's like we're already
This is the thing about League of Legends. There are actually multiple forms of magic in League of Legends.
Oy vey.
And well, that's just great. That's just peachy. I just sort of wish they did a better job presenting that.
Yeah, and this is why I really would have preferred Mel, the Black Rose, and pretty much, and I guess Ambessa. If you want to keep Ambessa, you have to keep just like her Noxus part. But the Black Rose and Mel, you have to get rid of because it just it convolutes this. And if you want, like, I know you guys talk about key jangling. The Black Rose is key jangling.
Yeah, because I imagine that they have a much bigger role in the actual games in the lore of League, but of course they are completely irrelevant to this story. They should not be a thing over here. Why are we discussing these random witches all of a sudden? Where do they come from? Why do they care? Why did we just invent a new backstory for Ambessa? Why didn't we just naturally go along with whatever we had established from before and just not add in a bunch of random nonsense that just makes the plot more complicated than it has to be?
Mm.
And also, of course, take away time from the actual drama that's unfolding over here.
Yeah.
You know
Really
what?
annoying.
Should we just get on to the finale already?
Also, she's not even relevant with the magic. She's like OP, but she isn't actually all that relevant.
Oh yeah, she doesn't actually use the magic for anything. She doesn't really do a whole lot.
She gets beaten by the fucking sentient robots, which, by the way, just gonna flick.
We will get there.
Sentient robots? Oh, the
Victor
dudes
stuff.
in Victor's stuff. Yeah. Season 1 is basically Arcane League of Legends. Season 2 is League of Legends Arcane. They turned art into an ad. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. They dumped a lot of shit into Season 2.
Part of the reason I like season 1 is I don't know much about League, but I did recognize some elements, and I liked seeing how they tried to craft those elements into the narrative, because they did that pretty well in the first season, and this one it definitely felt excessively shoved in.
Mhm. With with Aisha there, Raptor, I would agree with basically the last sentences that they expected a montage to make up for the entire development. I really hated this battle, by the way.
Yeah.
Actually, the
We're
main thing I hated
skipping
about this
really
battle
far
was that it was
ahead
one
right
episode.
now.
Yeah,
But
I hated
when
that
I
it was one
said
episode.
when I said let's skip over to the finale, I mean the final 3 episodes.
Oh, I
Fair
see.
point. So Victor. So Jace comes down and tries to kill Victor.
Just fucking tries to assassinate him.
I actually love this form of Jace where he's seen hell. He's seen the worst things can be. He doesn't give a fuck at this point.
Yeah. And then because
Hold on, wait a second. Should we talk about Caitlyn? I feel like we've been glossing over her a lot.
It's because, to some extent, she's not all that relevant.
I mean,
To be perfectly honest, it's kind of the case with a lot of characters. They're not all actually all that relevant.
yeah. This is tragically the case, despite what she actually did in the first season, which was basically crack open the whole conspiracy revolving around Silco wide open, which
The conspiracy.
well, yes,
They didn't know they didn't know Zahn was organized at all.
yeah,
Oh,
like
I
the
see.
whole thing with Silco and his drug trades and everything. She was
Mhm.
basically the one who unveiled it and was gradually starting to uncover the corruption deep within Piltover. And eventually she was going to end up discovering that Marcus struck a deal with him at some point, more than likely. And that could have, but of course, that died with Marcus, which, what a great character, by the way. Absolute G. But we're not talking about season 1 as much as I would love to. He doesn't even get to finish his last words.
Hmm. So the final arc starts with episode 7. Full disclosure, this is my favorite episode.
Okay, that's the
This is
alternative universe one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
this is-
old universe.
Which I
one.
agree is like the best episode in the season, but still, yeah.
It's a fan favorite. That's just undeniable.
Yeah, and
but-
I think primarily because you can kind of watch it without really the context of the rest of the show and enjoy it.
Little
Is it
alternate
as-
universe.
Is it as damning as the other episodes? Is it as damaging, I would say? I would hope. I don't know. I could be proven wrong, and it was actually the worst for the show, but honestly, I don't even care anymore. For me personally, the worst episode of this season was episode 1. Like, that was the point where I was instantly broken.
The entire Act 1 was...
The entirety of Act 1 killed my investment in this show.
hmm
Okay. So I think for me, like, I was fine with this. I think this has similar problems to, say, Wonder Woman's 1984 with the whole Steve Trevor thing.
Yes, the whole body snatching fiasco.
hmm
It also
That's
does a little bit of
very
damage to Heimerdinger.
Oh yeah, I mean, he
You know,
was
it's the
just
casual thing of like, yeah, let's just wait a couple of centuries and then we'll be, or just like, live here. Let's not care about everyone back home. It's like,
which
mate,
is remarkably selfish from Heimerdinger.
I feel like they kind of
So-
lost the characterization of
Pause.
Heimerdinger.
The fanatic, you
I was going to ask a question. So, explain the Wonder Woman thing. I know what you're talking about, but explain why this one is as bad as that.
well, it's basically just he is functionally possessing the body of somebody else. And it has all of the ethical weirdness that comes with it.
Mm.
Where if it's double it, he can put himself in danger, but he is fundamentally putting somebody else in danger by doing this. And with Heimerdinger, it's just like he's not really, he's murdering two people. Like it's basically he is doing something that is really, really stupid, and then dies and kills not just himself but his other universe counterpart, and that is going to have major, long-lasting consequences.
But Alt's universe Echo doesn't die; he wakes up.
Yes, but Heimerdinger's dies.
Oh yeah, Heimerdinger dies.
Which
but this is the other thing of
I
like,
want to
we don't.
note something.
Mhm.
Did Heimerdinger just leave the council?
Yep.
He just left it, and we don't. There's like that just happens, and we're expected to just accept that
We
it
don't
happened.
know. We don't know what Heimerdinger's place is in the old universe.
In this universe. We would. This guy was the father of Piltover, and Piltover exists. And as far as we know, he was pretty much always on that council. And I don't see any reason for him to not be on that council at any point in time. But the show wants us to believe that he just sort of left one day, and everybody was just okay with it.
Well,
And
everyone's
so he became a
places was
wanderer.
changed. Everyone's places were changed as a result of this, so we don't know where Heimerdinger would have ended up. He could have retired for all we know.
Well, we do know that the only point of divergence that we are aware of with this alternate timeline is that Violet dies in the explosion,
Mhm.
and that's it. And well, also somehow Silco finds that letter, but it's just the chains, the chain reaction over here. The links, they're not making any sense, because presumably Silco would have to have found that letter a long time ago, presumably before Violet ended up dying. And did Vander just not send it to him? Is that it's just not? Is this nonsense? There's nothing. This needs answers. It's a gigantic hole in the plot over here. So, because basically Violet and Powder as characters were entirely the same. Milo and Clagger were entirely the same people up until that explosion. But also, Silco was an entirely different person pretty much the whole time. And the timeline in this alternate reality is just when did Silco find that letter, and how does that impact the characters? What are the knock-on effects of him finding that letter? How does this impact Violet and Powder as characters? Would they have even gone to the penthouse if Silco and Vander made up? How would that impact their upbringing? All this other questions over here. But the show isn't going to answer all of it because it's trying to make a bottle episode without understanding the fundamentals of a bottle episode. It's taking bits and pieces from our timeline and just cramming it over into this alternate timeline haphazardly, but also just tweaking it just a little bit to get the results they want.
The focus isn't on it's not trying to spend so much time world building this entire thing. Echo is trying to understand what the differences are between this world. He sees Vi is dead now. And his main focus, at least even from the beginning, was how to get back. How to get back to his own universe, and that's his primary focus. The Jinx in this world is trying to speak with him and doesn't really understand what's going on with him because he's focused on trying to get home. The mechanics and kind of lore aspects of this alternate universe don't really have to come into play. I understand the questions exist, but the focus of this episode isn't really to answer them.
But those questions are still there, regardless of whether or not they are intending to answer them. And the fact that they don't even intend to answer these glaring questions that are coming up because of their own actions is an indictment on the writers themselves. It shows
I
that
don't
they
think
don't
so.
care.
No, I think they were very focused on they were very focused on what the point of this episode was, which was Echo being presented with a world where he could get everything he wants, but he makes the ultimate decision to not stay. He chooses his world over this one where he could have everything he wants. He chooses the world he came from because if he stays here, he leaves everyone that in the other world behind. He doesn't want to leave those people behind because there are things he needs to do over there. He can't just leave that broken world. He can't just stand by and live the life he wants while everyone else has to fight for survival in their own universe.
Yes, that's a very nice theme, and I think it's very nice, sweet and sentimental. However, this is still a story. The story still has to make sense.
What part of it doesn't make sense?
I just went over which parts of it doesn't make sense.
Well, you presented a series of questions that, again, the focus, like I said, the focus of this episode isn't really to answer the questions.
But by setting this up, by making this story the way it is, they created a bunch of questions, and then they didn't bother answering said questions because they were so focused on trying to get the theme across that they forgot to tell a coherent story.
The story in this case is Echo trying to get home. He's in a world he doesn't really know, and then he's not going to spend all the time that he's on time limit. He's not going to spend the time learning about this world.
I have to take a call.
All right, so I'll just answer some questions going in the chat.
Keep going. Yeah, keep going.
Echo's not going to spend the time in this world to find all the answers to these questions because it's not really what he's here to do. He wants to leave. That's apparent from when he gets there. His people still, the boy savior. I also agree that the season didn't explore this very much. So he very much wants to go back, but he's presented with this world because, at least in terms of the writers, this is his test. He's being tested now to see will he choose to be selfish, or will he sacrifice? Will he make the sacrifice of everything he could ever want to save the people he loves? That's this episode, and honestly, the answers to the questions, I don't really care. Again, the episode, you have a limited time in TV shows, in episodes, to convey all this information, and they're being strategic here in focusing on this stuff. And I believe this episode also has cut-ins with Jace, so they have very limited amounts of time to convey all the information they need to. So they focused on Echo. This is Echo's episode, or Jason Echoes. But yeah, this is the episode of alternate timelines.
Yes, I know what this episode is. I know what it's supposed to do. I know its function. I know its purpose. I know what the writers are trying to do with this episode. All of that. That's all good and well. My problem comes in the execution.
What's the issue with the execution?
The issue with the execution is that there was a lot of changes. The timeline was altered in such a manner that raised a lot of questions. It wasn't intuitive. It raised a lot of questions that were not answered by the show itself. And therefore, all of that nice theme and sentimental value is now sitting on a shaky premise. And this over here is the fundament of storytelling. You can't just appeal to the theme and the meaning of an episode or of a show or anything and use that as the only justification you need to make something happen. You need to actually put in the legwork in order to get to your payoff. And while I like this episode, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to pretend that it was it was a good episode.
So I have to ask, like, what parts of understanding the timeline of this world would really help you in would really assist this episode in doing what it's trying to do? That's my question. Because it seems like these questions would basically end up basically appeasing a person who would have these questions. But again, that would be the writers presuming to even know what kind of questions would be even asked. So you're basically asking the writers to preempt something that they're not going to know that you have these questions. They're trying to do something specific.
Well, given that all these items are inextricably linked in the timeline, one of these events all have knock-on effects, and they all have aspiring. There's a lot of noise coming in from your end.
I muted him. You're good. Go for it.
Okay, I'm not prepared for a high octane debate on the merits of this episode, at least not in my current state. All that I do know is that, well, I'm trying to just remember the thing itself. All I know is the broad strokes of it, and the broad strokes of it is nice, but I also recall that it also just the whole of Violet and the Silco thing. Those are just some elements of questions that needed to be asked, that needed to be answered. Like, when did this stuff happen? Because if one item happened before the other, that could have prevented the other from happening. But we don't get that. So we just have to assume that it happened a specific way, and we are making assumptions over here rather than having something concrete, which that's just indicative of just bad storytelling in general.
No, I think it's indicative of from Echo's perspective, he sees Jinx. He sees Jinx and not Vi, and he's in Piltover at this moment. So he what he's seeing is the opposite of what he would expect. He would have expected Vi to be in Piltover, and instead he finds Jinx, and he sees that I don't remember the other guys. The dude with the glasses, his name, he's alive again. So a lot of the things have changed. Jinx doesn't know what he doesn't know. From Jinx's perspective, or Powder, she doesn't know that he's not from their world. So when he talks about, like, well, where's Vi? What happened to Vi? She just thinks, oh, he's a bit rocked in the head. remind him what happened with Vi. They don't know that he's not from their universe. They don't know that. They're not going to spend the time explaining that to us. Because anything that they explain would be for the purpose of the audience. The Echo, as he is, with the characters that he's surrounded by, think that all the characters around him think he knows everything already. And him trying to go through the entire explanation of how he even got there would take too long. So the entire focus of this episode is Echo trying to get back. He doesn't have time to explain his position in this world.
I think the episode would have been greatly helped by him simply explaining what just happened and how he got over here and why.
I don't think so. I don't think it's relevant to the episode.
Hold on. You don't think that the character who was magically and spontaneously shot over to another universe, explaining to select characters, particularly people who are close to him, what just happened to him, is relevant? This would have been the first thing that most people would have attempted to do.
Well, most people aren't in Echo's position. Echo is dealing with...
I'm saying that if you were put in Echo's position, most people put in Echo's position, the first thing they would have done is just try to explain what the hell just happened, try to figure out what the hell happened, ask around, see why everything is so spontaneously different. But instead, what we got was this really hilariously stupid scene where Jinx is going up to like a little mural or a little shrine that she built to commemorate Vi and her life, and he immediately assumes that she had to do with her death.
Well, yeah, because that's how it happens in the original. But my question...
That's not how it happens in the original, because in the original timeline, Jinx never kills Violet.
Yeah, but he knows the circumstances.
What circumstances? The whole scene.
She blows up the apartment.
No. You're missing what I'm saying. He sees this shrine. He sees that this is supposed to be for Vi, and he sees Jinx and Powder, and he assumes, did you have something to do with this? Did you kill her or something along those lines, if I remember correctly? And Powder's very obviously and visibly offended. And yes, he does piece together that it was the job, because she says as such. It was quite... Again, the show is not subtle. It hits you over the head with its themes and messaging, with all the subtlety of blunt force trauma to the head with a good old warhammer.
I think that's being a bit... I feel like that's being a bit unfair to the episode. This episode is actually quite well paced compared to a lot of the others.
I understand that this episode was well paced. I understand that the entirety of the second and third act of the season was better paced than the first act. I understand. We all agree on that. I think we can all agree on that. It was the first observation I made.
Yes. So here's my question. How does Echo learning about the history of this world help him get back home?
Well, it does quite a lot, because now he understands that hex tech was never invented over here, and so he would have to go ahead and piece together how to recreate it so that he can recreate the anomaly and get back home.
So he does.
Okay, and
he goes to the apartment. He finds the crystals, the shards of the hex crystal, and then he rebuilds the thing. That's as far in the history that he needs to go to understand what happened with Hextech. He doesn't have to go back and understand what happened between Silco and Vanda, because how does that help him get home?
I think I think on a character level, he would really care about that, considering in his timeline, he spent most of his life trying to kill Silco, and here Silco is buddying up with Vander and what was the name of Echo's father figure? I forgot his name. Unfortunately, it's been too long. But yes, he would care quite a lot about why the hell is it that Vander is now friends with Silco, and when the hell did this happen?
It doesn't matter. They're both gone.
Hold on. Why does it not matter when this character
we're getting a little bit heated.
Yes, but this character spent most of his life trying to kill Silco. Sure, it might not matter to the plot, but it matters to Echo. Echo would care a lot about this. Why the hell is this guy friends with basically his uncle? When did that happen? He would want to know.
Yeah, but he would want to know, but he doesn't. It's not necessary. His primary focus, as soon as he gets there, was, I don't know where I am. How do I get back to where I was? Him trying to understand the relationship, and I get that like Silco was a very important figure, but it's not his job to understand everything that's going on here. This isn't his world.
Yes, okay. Is it necessary to the plot for him to figure out the only thing he needs to worry about as far as the history of the setting is concerned is where the hell is he going to find Hextech and all that stuff. But that doesn't change the fact that Echo is a person with a particular history. He was a person who had particular experiences, who had particular relationships with a bunch of other characters. It doesn't matter what's necessary to the plot exactly. That isn't just the only thing you have to consider. You also have to consider your characters. What would they do in this situation? How would they react? How would that affect the plot? How would that affect the narrative? And I think him seeing what is basically the devil with his uncle being friends would be pretty impactful, and he'd probably want to know a little bit more, and the explanation that we're given is just the most lousy thing ever. It's like, oh yeah, well sometimes we just we just grow past it and whatever, and that's it. Like,
Well,
Echo doesn't even press further on it. He just sort of lets it slide.
to that question, does he know about the rescuing the firelights? Because to my understanding, the okay, let me see.
Well, that would have happened in episode 4. Echo disappeared in episode 3. He has no idea what the heck is transpiring in the mainline universe. He doesn't have any idea about Jinx's redemption arc right now.
Yeah, so I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not. I'm a little bit. I don't know if I don't believe that he would be aware of that, since the only time that Jinx is there, in turn, is Jinx is at Stillwater is only in season 2, and by that point, Echo has been cast out of the plot for a while.
So before he gets whisked away by the Hex Core, they have the fight on the bridge, and Echo has the opportunity to kill Jinx, but doesn't. He chooses not to, and this is what would be the counter thing for him, is that even though he hates Jinx, he can't unsee Powder. He can't forget that Jinx is Powder underneath. No matter what she does, and she's done horrible things, he can't unsee Powder, because that's who he grew up with. He has to believe that Powder still exists.
Okay. I think we've had a fairly long debate, so shall we go to episodes 8 and 9?
My only yeah, sure. My only commentary on episode 8 and 9 is that by episode 9, I have completely checked out. I've just accepted that shit is happening because that was basically the only thing the only way I could describe what was happening on the screen. This happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and it was just a constant back and forth between things just being pulled from thin air and thrown at each of the opposing sides. Like, oh no, the Noxians are here, and they're absolutely demolishing the people from Piltover and the Enforcers. They can't do anything about it. They're unstoppable, and then they deploy the gas, and they're about to break down the Victor Ball, and oh my god, it looks like they're finally going to do it, and then no, Maddie friggin' sabotaged the bomb. I also just remembered that we were not talking about Vi in the main timeline. Again, Aspiring's point about everybody being irrelevant remains true. And look, as much as I would love to continue whinging on, and as much as I enjoyed actually getting into a fairly heated debate, thank you very much.
I had a good time with it. I wasn't getting heated at all.
I thank you very much, Fanatic, for getting the gears in my brain turning again. That was very nice of you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not being sarcastic or sly about that. I'm actually being genuine. I do actually like exercising my mind a little bit and all that.
Yeah, like no hard feeling.
And also I think that it showed that I cared a bit, because one does not get upset unless they actually cared about something.
Oh yeah, like I said, I love episode 7. I am willing to go to bat for it.
All right, that's fair. I think that episode 7 definitely got its point across quite clearly and concisely, and I'd like the point that it was making. I think that its execution, it could have used some more work. It could have they could have spent some more time on that, but well, I mean, come on. We had a show. We had a show to get back to.
Chauvinistic and narcissistic terrorist is a hero, so yeah, no wonder they executed it poorly. I would Jinx being like the hero. I mean, the hero sort of worship is kind of forced upon her, I think, by those people. I don't really understand where that comes from. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you were saying something.
I do actually have to leave now.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of pressure to get going. It was very nice discussing this. So yeah, I'll see you all later. Have a good day, and Aspiring, you're up. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Great. Just leave me hanging here.
Now you're stuck with me.
Yeah, I'm just down to kind of watch it because I'm kind of in, like, for me, it's just, like, I liked Arcane season 1. And, like, with season 2, I was like, wow, this is going at a really breakneck pace and doesn't really, I'm not really getting much out of this. I'm mostly disinterested because it's not going into a lot of depth. I feel like it's speedrunning a lot of stuff.
100%. I would say the showrunners, at least on the point of like narcissistic terrorist, I feel like the thing that the show is trying to do is that anyone can be redeemed. Is that everyone should have a chance at redemption?
I mean, I don't disagree with this, but they fucked that up.
Yeah. The whole hero thing, the with all the people in Piltover who were like idolizing Jinx as a hero. I don't really understand where that came from.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
Would a narcissist jump in bottom train for you? I don't think so. Anyway, episode 8. While I was scrolling through my Netflix thing, I was like, "Hey, they're supposed to be fighting Noxus," and then I realized I'm on the wrong season. Going as a cycle, so this is the begin. This is the beginning of the fight, is it? No, this is them preparing somewhat.
This is the prep for the final fight, and Victor becomes the machine god, or whatever it's supposed to be.
Which, liked his design, didn't like how he got there. He was suddenly a pacifist and suddenly said, I must become autonomy, the shard of Sanderson, and make everyone me.
The parallel I saw with this was with a different book by PKD. I'm not saying that they did this. This is just something I noticed. With Philip K. Dick, he has a book called The Three Stigmata of Palm Eldritch. This is a spoiler for this book. If you haven't read it, you should go read it because it's
Did
fantastic.
you say Philip K. Dick?
Philip K. Dick. I say PKD, yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, PKD. So he has a book called The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. I highly recommend it. Palmer Eldritch, the main titular character. The spoiler for this book is that he's kind of... So Palmer Eldritch was a person, and then he goes off to a different solar system, and then gets basically... His mind gets taken over by like a little alien thing that lives in his brain. That little entity's wants to ascend to basically godhood, and the way it does this is by basically infecting everyone around it. And so the idea of godhood is that it goes for is that if I can exist in everyone's brain simultaneously, then I can live forever. Basically become everything all at once. It wants to be everyone, and then that would basically mean that it's God. And that's what I saw with Victor here, is that he saw himself as like the ultimate solution to basically everything, in that in order for things to go to be perfect, they have to become him. They have to all join with him. I think this is very much more the Hex Core than Victor. But it's the path that Victor ends up going down. They're still arguing about
You mean the path that Victor himself had laid down by the fact that he time traveled and gave Jace the fucking rune that ended up causing all of this?
Yeah, I suppose. Did he end up? I'm trying to remember. Did he? But did he even? I'm just trying to remember that one there, because he's like, was he? Did he merge with the Hex Core when he meets Jace? Back when he gives Jace the rune? I don't think so.
I don't think he fully like he gets. It's weird. So let me see. Jace heals Victor. So from my understanding, that like that like something in the Hex Core merged with him. That was my understanding.
Yeah, I just think that like, is that still present when Victor time travels?
What part? That's relevant?
So at the beginning of the show when Jace meets. I'm
Yes.
just gonna say that when Jace meets the mage, at this point he's just the mage. When Jace meets him, he, at least that character, didn't seem like he was affected. If that was Victor, he didn't seem like he was affected by the hex core.
I have no idea. What he seems like he's affected, but you seem to be thinking he's like mind controlled. I think there's some evidence to point he's not.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, he could be mind controlled. He could also be not. But I think there's some very physical changes.
There's definitely physical changes. Like he seems to be he still seems fused because he's walking around and alive and everything. So I think he's still Arcane God.
Yeah, it's just that he's not. We don't see his face when he's the machine dude. When he assumes his final form, we don't see his face. We only see his face when they're inside the hex core. When Jace goes to meet him.
Yeah, I assume that's just an aesthetic choice because they wanted it based off a certain design. And granted, I do like his design. And
I didn't like this part. I actually didn't like his design because I liked his design in League of Legends.
That's what I generally hear. If you don't like it, it's normally because you like his original aesthetic. So
yeah, he has. So I guess I'll explain the differences between Victor. Yeah, the bottom left one. Oh, that's Battlecast, but yeah, that basically is. No, the other one, the red one.
This one.
Yeah. So this is the Battlecast splash screen, but it's very close to basically what he is. I kind of understood him as being like this sort of tech. I called him a tech priest, basically, because he's all about like machine things. He has strong Mechanicus vibes, which is why I like this design. And yeah, I think at this, like when I saw him in League of Legends, I didn't fully get that the hex orb could have been magical. I thought that it was completely machine. He was all machine.
And kind of the comparison is Victor Arcane. Glorious Evolution, which is very, very different in a lot of ways.
It's more biological. Like it's what is it called?
Plant-like.
Yeah. It has that
techno-organic, maybe.
What's the? I'm thinking of the mushroom people in Baldur's Gate 3. There's a specific word for them. There's like a mushroom sort of aesthetic to him.
Bioluminescence?
No. Like mycelium, is that what it is?
Oh, that actually sounds about right. Yeah, mycelium. That actually makes sense because mycelium is mushroom based. That makes sense.
Yeah. They're still arguing about narcissism.
All right, chat. Okay, chat.
What happened?
Well, it's just quit arguing, chat. Let's move on. If you can't come to a consensus, let's move on.
Hey, chat's allowed to argue.
I understand the argument. Jinx is a very annoying character throughout the entire show. She's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
So technically, like, you're both correct because Jinx.
Yeah. What are some other things about? I think the main.
Oh yeah, this is Mel talking about her powers, which are really stupid.
Yeah. I think other things that are frustrating. I feel like it fast tracks a lot of development. Like it fast tracks Caitlyn and Vi after
their relationship.
Yeah, I feel like the whole Ambessa deciding to take over Piltover is exceptionally fast tracked and rushed. I don't fully understand why they're allying together. I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, I was under the impression she just wanted the weapons. So as soon as she got the weapons, she was getting out, and then she just stays. She then even commits to using Noxian soldiers to wipe out the Undercity.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just like, it just seems as though they kind of wanted a grand Game of Thrones season 8 type big battle, but then they kind of fast tracked it and rushed it and threw together. Like it kind of would have, and even just Victor's idea for the Glorious Revolution is odd. Because
Done.
What?
Keep going. Keep going.
It's the common theme with like the hive mind sort of thing, where it's he can fix everything if everyone becomes part of the hive mind.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird that Noxus is going along with it.
Oh, Noxus only sees weapons and tools.
No, but they hate magic. They should definitely see what he thinks as magic. And also just kind of against how they seem to view life in battle.
Are they against magic? Don't they have... Ambessa was using runes to defend
They seem to be like anti-magic runes. They say they hate magic. They mentioned this as kind of why they hate
they talk about how like they see magic as like a weak man's thing. Because they're all about physical prowess.
Yeah. And yet, you know...
I think they're not opposed to using magic. I feel like because again they were using the runes to defend themselves against magic.
Yeah, but they seem to be exclusively to like absorb magic.
Yeah, it is a bit strange that they would ally with Victor.
Yeah, and it's just like since ultimately he's going to turn on them at some point. That's just the logical outcome, I would say, at least.
Yeah, it could be that they don't, or they don't fully understand what Victor's goal is.
It could be, yeah. Yeah, it's just like
maybe I don't really understand what it's ever. They ever mention? Did Victor ever talk with Ambessa?
Not really. It's mostly just Singe talking with Victor.
Oh yeah, because Jace gets injured. I say Jace gets injured. Jace injures Victor. Victor kind of encases himself in the cocoon, and then Singe uses that.
And it's just... and it's just, and then because Victor gets hit, everybody either goes comatose, or if they're Warwick, they go necking futs.
Okay. So he does speak with Ambessa. When he gets injured, he's talking with her.
Okay. Yeah. I will fully admit it has been a while since I've saw it, and I don't fully remember a lot of it. I probably well, I don't really want to watch this show, rewatch this show. I was like, I'm just honestly really disappointed by it. It's just like, it's so like fast tracked, which is really, really frustrating because there's so much meat. It just kind of is like a Transformers movie where it bombards you with
Vixer and what prompts him to regret his choice. I think he regrets the actions he was taking in his pursuit of the glorious evolution. I think he realizes the line he was crossing. Time was the biggest factor. They ran out of time and money. I don't think they really ran out. I mean, there wasn't Riot bankrolling them.
I honestly am. I don't know if I could. I know there are a few objective things that we can say definitively happened, which was the writing staff got reduced, and based on comments about season 1, it seemed like a lot of them were writers that were curtailing a lot of that were presenting alternative voices to some of the less good ideas. That's admittedly the second part of that is theorization, and speculation on my part. But a lot of it just seems as though, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, they spent a while on season 1 and really refined it. Yeah, they could have expanded. Yeah.
I don't think they really needed that much. Well, I say they didn't need that much budget. I think what they had. I'm not going to presume. It does seem like a lot of it was cut down for the sake of expediency, which is why I say that there could have been a season 3, and I think the writers planned there for there to be a season 3.
Yeah. And then I think with the ending battle is kind of a mess. Where you reminded me when you were talking about Game of Thrones. I felt like it was the kind of the opposite. It was the same, but also the reverse in that they rushed both the setup on the lead up to the battle. And then I guess they spent a long time on the battle because I guess the battle itself, I think, was 2 episodes or 1.5 episodes. So they did spend a while on the battle itself, but the lead up to it wasn't, and the ramp up to it was very much rushed. And I think that's the difference with Game of Thrones is that the ramp up was 7 seasons, regardless, like the quality of the 5, 6, and 7, the quality of those seasons aside, there was still like the ramp. There was still quite a long ramp leading towards the battles in season 8, and what we got in the end was kind of rubbish. The ramp in this case seemed like it was very much rushed, which made the battle seem not inconsequential, but I just wasn't as invested in the battle. It felt like it was obligatory. Like, we've got to have this big battle to finish it up, and then this synthesis between Jace and Victor. Even though, big problem that I have with this is that they kind of drop the relationship a little bit, and kind of don't do a whole lot with the two of them to make this climax really satisfying. especially since like a lot of it is riding on Jace being able to get through to Victor with the alternative timeline Victor's memory, the memory of the alternative timeline Victor, and the whole Victor was setting the whole thing up from the beginning.
I don't think I had an issue with that.
I don't have an issue with that. It's just like,
yeah,
it's just like, okay, well, I guess we're doing that kind of story. It was just like, okay, well, but I guess you could do this. I don't kind of it was just like abrupt. I felt like it was very abrupt and like.
Oh yeah, because when did Jace come out of the Hex? I think he was the first one out.
Yeah, I think it was episode 4 since. I think it was actually 4 or 5. It was 4 or 5. It was somewhere in the middle. That's my thought, at least. Let me check.
So much of the season was Piltover versus Nox. I don't see Jace coming out in episode 4.
Okay, so it's episode 5. Yeah, since he injures Victor in episode 6, and it seemed like he's crazy for most of, since he just smashes that guy to bits.
Oh, that was I love that bit.
It was like I was very surprised by it. I don't know if I had like a quality assessment of it. I was like, well, okay, well, this is something.
Yeah, that indicated to me is like, oh, he is so done.
Yeah. And then he kind of walks back a little bit in episode 8, I mean. To be a little bit more, I guess, toned down, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still, and then he has the whole synthesis with Victor, which it's kind of interesting that it feels like there's pieces missing, I guess, with that whole dynamic where he abruptly turns from wanting to kill Victor to then doing the synthesis with Victor.
Yeah, I think he realized. Well, I guess they both realized that I'm trying to remember actually what was the decision that they made? Was it? Oh no, it was because Jace becomes part of the Hex Core, as in becomes part of the hive. That is. I think the Jace, when he comes back, he's laser focused on getting to Victor, and that he tries reasoning with him, and when that doesn't happen, he kills him. And then I think from there there's a bit of a slowdown because we get to see what in episode 7 we get to see the recollection of what happened to Jace to make him that way. And then from there, I think he's back to trying to, I guess, stop Noxus.
Yeah, I think, and kind of the whole thing with Echo, like I was fine with it. I think like it's most of the time like I'm not as angry at it as EFAP were. I'm mostly just like just the fact that it just hurts me a little bit because it just made me ambivalent toward a lot of the actions that I was seeing on screen. And that was really frustrating to me because it's just like I don't actively hate this. I more hate the fact like the content in front of me. I just hate that I'm kind of ambivalent toward it because of how fast it's going. And I did not like what they did with Jinx. I really didn't like that. I especially did not like the ending that they did where Warwick and Vi and Jinx have a big fight. I don't necessarily hate Warwick's design. I think it's perfectly fine. I think that the design of the game is cooler. But I think that just the ending where Victor dies, or Victor and Jace go poof. Yeah, they were a lot more passionate because I think they were just like, "This is such good writing, we're missing it," and then it's just like, "Oh, it's like the tax or whatever."
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say there. I think they could have done without having Vander. There we go. Having Vander in that last fight. It kind of it seemed a bit unnecessary to have Vander. It does seem like Vander was there purely for Jinx and Vi. And they because otherwise like Victor and the hive of the robot guys, they were a big enough threat on their own. Vander was saying that. No, I get that. I'm saying that Vander dies, I guess, if we're going to say he dies, because I don't think he dies at the end of season 1. I don't think he's dead, because I do remember Singe saying that he was still alive when he finds him. He gets killed by Aisha in that fight in season 2. I think after Jace attacks him in episode 6. Sorry, you didn't like how they handled Warwick. No. Let me get to where I didn't like it. So Warwick dies at Aisha's hand, and for that purpose, it made sense, because for his involvement at that point made sense, because Noxus needed Vander. They employed Singe to put the leash back onto Vander so that they could use him. So that they could use him for their own ends. Aisha put a stop to that by killing him. So from that point, Vander doesn't really matter. Like his thing is basically resolved. He's been put to rest. And they
resurrect his corpse, like the Warwick we see after episode 7 is functionally he's just a zombie.
Like he's completely he's part of the hive. Part of Victor's hive.
Conflict. And there's no internal conflict between man and monster at that point. It's just he's just
a weapon now.
Yeah. And it's kind of boring a little bit because there's no like the
only conflict was basically at the end of that fight when Jinx and Vi had to kill him.
Yeah.
That was the only conflict, and it seemed like that's all he really existed for. I don't really think he had much involvement in that fight beyond fighting Jinx and Vi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's functionally just like a big a big Hulk, even less intelligent Hulk.
Like they made a big show of him in, at least at the start of this. Is it at the start of the season where Singe is in prison and then he lures Warwick over, and then Warwick goes on the warpath through the enforcers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they made a big show of Vander at that point, and yeah, it kind of just leads up to like, this is the stakes of what happens if Noxus can get their leash on him.
And fundamentally, they kind of do get the leash on him anyway. They just get him an even less volatile version.
Yeah.
I guess you could say that. I don't know. I'm willing to grant that. And obviously some measure of it is the mind control is gone. So perhaps I'm willing to grant that, but I'm just like, it's missing a lot of meat. Is a big thing that I would say. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. That could be the case. Any other thoughts before we conclude?
Not quite. I'm just looking through a video to find the scene with Singe and Vander.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I will have to. We'll call it good, and I think this clip kind of sums it up.
Just don't fucking care anymore.